All right, let's just sneak under here, look at the rear diff. This is one of our priorities right here. And the reason is because it's a quart low. Now, this truck, the spark plugs look like they've never been changed. So we don't know what kind of maintenance has even been done on this. This diff is a quart low, and the basic, I mean, you can see it's leaking all around here. How long has it been leaking? How long has it been a quart low? That's kind of a lot for a differential. Probably not catastrophically low, but it's low enough that some of the bearings might not be getting the oil they need. So when we pull this off, we're going to be looking for metal shavings on the magnet, metal shavings in the bottom. We're going to be looking for glitter in the oil, that kind of thing. And that could be a sign of a bearing going bad, or maybe even the backlash being bad, or some other problem. Now, this thing's not making any noise. There's no bearing noises. There's no gear noises that we can tell from the cab. But let's just take it apart and look at it, see what's going on. And you can see this truck is a just total rust bucket. It's just like pretty crazy how even the spare, look at the spare, it's just solid rust. There's a little bit of paint left on it like here and there, but man, it's pretty bad. So, and the frame's kind of like that. So this is going to be a real project truck. Had to get the 1/2-inch snap-on impact to break it loose. It was so corroded and so rusted. So that was super bad. Okay, got a grunge brush. This isn't for welding or anything else. This is just for greasy, nasty things like this. Try to clean up some of these heads here. Okay, that's a pile of grunge right there. Okay, so that first one came off pretty not easily. So I'm worried I'm gonna snap one. So I'm gonna, I was hoping all this oil in here would have kept these from like seizing up, but I'm gonna go ahead and clean these threads off with this little wire wheel here. Woo! Wish I'd done this outside, huh? All right, got two that are, the heads are stripped. The 1/2-inch socket's just spinning on those. These are so corroded, I'm surprised it didn't happen to more of them. It's just so much of it's corroded, it's just breaking away. So I either have to pound an 11 millimeter on that, or a 12 millimeter. Let's see. Oh, it just came apart. And I brought just the tool for this. This is a 1/4-inch drive extension. There we go. Keep that one separate. I'm going to clean these threads up and maybe file them down so that the 12 fits on it better. Wow. All right. I'd rather fix the heads than have one of these break off inside, so I'm still happy. Now what we got is a special tool. Let's try it here. This is the knockoff of the Lyle brand. Just kind of hold this handle, set that right on that edge, and hopefully that's thin enough to get behind your cover without deforming your cover with like a screwdriver, which is how I've done it all my life. And then I just kind of straighten the cover out. But let's see how this does. All right, now we got some gear oil coming out. It looks yellow. I don't see any glitter in it. That's good. I'll just hammer this in the rest of the way. Probably do it from the other side now. I'm gonna put one bolt in here at the top. I typically leave one in just so it doesn't fall. There we go. Yeah, good. I'm really excited about this. I was afraid there'd be glitter in it. Now we just got to check for chunks. If we don't have any chunks, we're doing good. Now let's get in real close here, looking in the bottom of the diff, but I don't feel any chunks of metal in here. I don't feel anything, so that's awesome. Okay, we're going to scrape off the big chunks with this. And I like to not use the wire wheel for big chunks because then they tend tend to end up inside the differential. I'm going to dry it as best I can, get most of the oil off around here. Now we're going to use a surface conditioning tool.
Did you spot the leak source earlier in the video? Here, I'm trying to save my buddy some money by cleaning the flaky rust off with the wire wheel and getting the cover repainted. After I got it all back together and drove it, there was a pinhole leaking oil out of the lower center of the diff cover. So the rust had gotten so bad it had literally rusted right through and caused the original leak. So I wasted a couple hours trying to save this one. So if your rust is really bad, be sure to check the outside of the cover for pinhole leaks. We ended up replacing this rusty diff cover with a new one.
All right, so the rust on this is just, it's pit, you know, it's not surface rust by any means. It's all pitted, it's way down into the metal. What we're gonna do, instead of just painting it, we're gonna use some phosphoric acid. This is Ospo brand of phosphoric acid. It has some other additives to it that, so if you don't know about this stuff not only neutralizes rust, but it also primes the metal so you can paint it directly. And it also leaves a hardened surface on the metal that will prevent it from ever rusting again. Now here's what it looks like when it dries, but this is basically a hard surface now. Okay, just gonna get these cleaned up on the grinder wheel here. Okay, that took, 20 minutes to clean all, and it's still not perfect. There's just so much, and look how pitted those are. They're just, it's amazing how, and some are a little worse than others. But these will get filed down to like a 12 millimeter, and you can see how rounded off they are just from them, just so broken down from the rust. Okay, 12 millimeter, much better. Diff fluid change should take an hour to an hour and a half in my experience, and this has taken 3 to 4 hours just because of all the rust and all the extra stuff to deal with. So consider this when you're considering buying a used truck. Just know that if you do have to do projects or things like this, that it's going to take longer just because you're dealing with the rust and the corrosion and the fusion of the bolts, and then trying to get things clean again, maybe resurfacing the bolts like we did here. And make sure you take that into account when you're paying for your truck. Whoever's selling the truck to you, tell them that this is going to take me 2 or 3 times longer to do projects because it's so rusty. If you don't mind working with rust, there you go. Holy cow, guys, that's just from the differential. I didn't even knock any of the rust off the axles. Whew. Yeah, this is just rust. This isn't like dirt or dust or mud. Yeah, it's just rust. Okay, the paint job came out really lumpy, but that's just because of all the surface rust. We're just never going to get that off unless we grind it, and it's kind of thin, so I don't want to end up going through it. Nice and clean inside. We're just going to wipe this down with some brake cleaner. Wipe the edge down with some brake cleaner, like that. And then we're going to do the same with the differential flange as well. So these mating surfaces need to be nice and clean. Okay, and I typically use this Right Stuff 1 minute. This sets up like right away. You can return to service immediately. And so I've used this on differentials for lots of years. Transmission pans, it's never failed on me, never had a leak. So it's kind of expensive. It's like $15 or $20 for this little thing, but works really well. Today I'm going to use this 90-minute gasket maker, same stuff, Right Stuff, but it gives you 90 minutes, so it gives you longer working time. Well, we'll start off here. Oh, and I bought this little tool. If you watch Faye Hadley on YouTube, she's just a total trip. So much fun to watch. And she always has these tools that I have to buy. This is one of them, and I've never used it before, but we're going to try it out today. So you slide it on till that little seam is just past that edge there, and then you can kind of squeeze it, right? And out comes your stuff. All right, let's see if it works. And you don't need this. My wrist is killing me, right? My right wrist, I can't put any weight on it. I'm getting old, and my body parts just don't work like they used to. So I'm going to try this out, see if this is a little easier than trying to squeeze a tube. And so far, so good. Yeah, this thing's awesome. This
takes all the strain off. You can get a much more even bead. This is like having a caulking gun for your... This is pretty sweet. I bought this and then I was like, I'm never going to use this thing. Why'd I ever buy this for? But man, and I'm using my right hand to squeeze this and it's not bothering my wrist at all. This is, I'm impressed. My bead got a little wonky there. Let's add just a little bit more right across here. Now the cool part is you can walk it up too. You open the handle like this and you walk it up. That kind of keeps the back end trapped right there. You can see that it's kind of a wedge shape, so it keeps most of your stuff up here rather than having it squirt out the back. Pretty cool. Now for this, I'm just going to make a little bead on the top here. This will probably harden and dry on the inside of this nozzle, but usually I can return this to service, use it again in a few months. Okay, it's called Tube Squeezer Tool. Imagine that. Yes, thank you, Faye.
$11 foot-pounds. 22 foot-pounds. And 33 foot-pounds. Okay, let's see if this is dry enough here. It feels good and dry. There's a little drip right there from oil from draining it. So I'm going to wipe that drip off just to make sure it doesn't trick me later, because you're going to be checking for leaks later, right? We're using the Motive power fill to fill this differential. Just makes things a lot easier. Just put this in the hole here. Open the valve. Here comes the fluid.
So you can pressurize the power fill with either the built-in hand pump or your compressor. I really like this for fill holes that are hard to reach. You know, sometimes you just can't get your squeezy bottle up there. And I just detest using hand pumps underneath the vehicle.
All right. Just start to come out there. It took almost 4 quarts. Got the magnet cleaned off. And no leaks out the back as of yet.